With one season under his belt, does Devin Singletary have what it takes to become an elite running back during the 2020 NFL season? Welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to the second installment of Could It Happen Buffalo Sports, where we take a hot take in Buffalo sports and we ask ourselves, could it happen? In this episode, we're going to talk about Buffalo Bills running back Devin Singletary and if he has a chance to win the rushing title at the end of the 2020 season. Before we do that, however, guys, I want to remind you all that my name is Joe. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Billievers Talk. And if you are new, guys, and you like Buffalo sports or you enjoy this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, hit that thumbs up, and then leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Devin Singletary. Let me know what you think about his chances to win the NFL rushing title. Guys, in this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down some of the reasons why I think Devin Singletary could win the rushing title at the end of the 2020 season. And then I'm going to talk about why there are some reasons why he shouldn't or maybe can't win the rushing title at the end of the 2020 season. And then I'm going to give you my percentage. I'm going to give you a percentage of chance that I think Devin Singletary will have to win the rushing title at the end of the 2020 season. So let's get right into it, guys. Again, my first installment, if you missed it, was could Josh Allen win NFL MVP next year at the 2020 season. I think a lot of Bills fans and maybe a lot of fans of football overall will be more reasonable with this Could It Happen edition, where we talk about could Devin Singletary become the NFL rushing champion, rushing king at the end of the 2020 season. So let's go into it. And first, let's talk about why he could, right? I think that there are a few reasons why Devin Singletary could win the rushing title in the 2020 season. The first reason is just look at his numbers, right? Look at his numbers from the 2019 season and how they compare to previous rushing kings, previous rushing champions in the NFL. And we'll start with Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry averaged 5.1 yards per carry last season in 2019 when he won the rushing title. Well, how many yards? What was Devin Singletary's yards per carry last season? 5.1. Now, Devin Singletary only played in 8 games last year. Or, I'm sorry, he only started in 8 games last year. He played in 12 games last year. So if you think about what Devin Singletary could do, knowing that he's the star back. Remember, he was not the feature back week 1 in the NFL. In fact, he actually took a few back seats to Frank Gore, who got a couple starts. And then, remember, Devin Singletary tore his hand. Well, he didn't tear his hamstring, but he sprained his hamstring. So he was out after week 2 for a little bit. So he spent some time on the bench learning from Frank Gore, which isn't a bad place to be. Isn't a bad place to be at all. But you look at Devin Singletary now, you look at him in the second half of the year, even in the playoff game, and you talk about a guy who really continued to improve on his game. Again, averaging 5.1 yards per carry, which is the exact same number as Derrick Henry. In fact, since 2010, there has only been one running back who has had more than 5.1 yards per carry that went on to win the rushing title, and that's Adrian Peterson in 2012, who averaged 6 yards on the dot. That's the season where Adrian Peterson rushed for over 2,000 yards, won the NFL MVP that season as well. Other than that, since 2010, 10 seasons, all the other running backs have been at 5.1 yards per carry or fewer. In fact, there's been 3 running backs that have finished with exactly 5.1 yards per carry. Talking about Derrick Henry in 2019. You're talking about Ezekiel Elliott in 2016. And you're also talking about LaShawn McCoy in 2013, back when he played with the Philadelphia Eagles. So 3 times the rushing champion at the end of the season finished with 5.1 yards per carry. Exact same total as Devin Singletary. That's my first reason why I think Devin Singletary, as long as he continues on that trajectory, could potentially be the rushing champion at the end of the 2020 NFL season. The next reason why I think Devin Singletary could become the rushing champion is because of the Buffalo Bills run-to-pass ratio, okay? In 2019, the Buffalo Bills run-to-pass ratio was 47.5% run to 52.5% pass. That was actually 7th best in the NFL as far as getting as close to 50-50 as you can. That was the 7th best at 47.5. So if you're wondering what Tennessee was at, because that's where Derrick Henry plays, right? So you want to say, hey, where was Tennessee at? The Tennessee Titans were actually 4th in the league, where they ran the ball 49.8% of the time, passing the ball 50.2. So pretty much 50-50 right there. And I think that the more Devin Singletary improves on his game, the more Brian Daboll will trust him to run the ball. And I think we'll even see the Bills number go up a little bit, maybe towards 48.5 next season. Again, that depends what we do with the running back position in free agency. That depends what happens with Frank Gore. It really all depends what happens, but I think that Devin Singletary has solidified himself as the starter for the Buffalo Bills. Let me know in the comment section if you agree. Do you think that Devin Singletary has solidified himself as the starter for Buffalo? If you don't, tell me what you think, or even if you do, tell me what you think he has to improve on the most. So my next reason, this would be my third reason why I think Devin Singletary could win the rushing title at the 2020 NFL season. It's because Devin Singletary is used to carrying the load. He's not afraid of having a lot of rush attempts in a game or in a season. Remember, last year, 2019, when he was drafted, everyone talked about how many carries he already had on his legs, how many times he ran the ball at Florida Atlantic. Guys, in 3 seasons with Florida Atlantic, Devin Singletary ran the ball more than 710 times, including in 2017, where he ran the ball over 300 times in that season. I mean, you talk about a guy who's used to having that type of workload. This guy knows how to get it done. This guy knows how to be the one weapon on an offense that can continue to be relied upon. So let's put that into perspective. How many carries is that compared to the last 2 rushing champions? Well, if you look at Derrick Henry spent 3 years in Alabama, just like Devin Singletary spent 3 years at Florida Atlantic. Derrick Henry spent 3 years at Alabama, and in his 3 years at Alabama, he ran the ball 602 times, over 100 attempts less than Devin Singletary. So you go back to Ezekiel Elliott with Ohio State. He was with Ohio State for 3 seasons as well. Only ran the ball 592 times. So that's over 115, 120 times less than Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary was a workhorse in college, and he could be a workhorse again in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills if Brian Daboll will just give him the ball. Again, we know that we kind of coddled him into the season, coddled him into his first rookie year in the NFL. We wanted to give him a chance to kind of get his legs under him. We know how tough is your rookie season to get a break, right? You go right from college into the combine, from the combine to the draft, right into rookie training camp. It really comes at you fast. Now that he has a season, off season under his belt, now he can get his legs back underneath him and possibly become that guy who carried the ball 300 times in one season. I don't know if we want to be carrying the ball that much, but that's how much we can rely on Devin Singletary. And my last reason why I think Devin Singletary can win the rushing title is because some of you might be thinking, man, Ezekiel Elliott, 1st round pick, 4th overall. A lot of these guys, Chris Johnson, when he won it in 2010, he was a 1st round pick in the 20s, I believe. So you're thinking, hey, you need to be a 1st round pick or a star elite running back coming into the NFL in order to break that mold, in order to become the rushing champion for a season. Not so fast, all right? Before you think that, or anyone that does think that, you have to know a few things. First of all, Derrick Henry, the last rushing champion in 2019, he was a 2nd round pick. He was actually picked 45th overall. So he was not a 1st round draft pick. He was not a star-studded guy. Now, if you think about Devin Singletary, he was a 3rd round pick. So he was 74th overall. So are there any guys that have won the rushing title that have come from the 3rd round or later? And that's an easy yes. In fact, 3 years ago when Kareem Hunt won it, Kareem Hunt was a rookie, and he won it when he was drafted in the 3rd round, 86th overall. And if you want to go back even further, the 2009 rushing champion, which was Arian Foster of the Houston Texans, he was actually an undrafted free agent in 2009, and then he went on to win the rushing title in his 2nd season. Guys, if you look at the previous rushing champions, a lot of them were in their 2nd season when they broke out. Chris Johnson was in his 2nd season when he won the rushing championship. Ezekiel Elliott was his rookie season. Kareem Hunt was his rookie season. So he's not too young. right? We can't use that as an excuse. He has the possibility to do it. We saw him carry those loads. We know the Bills love to run the ball, especially getting later in the season when it gets harder to tackle a running back moving downhill. We saw it with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was a beast at the end of the year. He had, 4 or 5 games in a row where he ran for over 150 yards or something crazy like that. People do not, football players included, do not want to tackle when it's cold, when it's snowy. They want to avoid hard contact. So if you're a running back that's going to hit those holes and run downhill, which might not always be Devin Singletary's game, but if he's willing to do it, I think there's a chance that Devin Singletary could be the rushing champion at the end of the 2020 season. Before I get into the reasons why I don't think he has a shot to become the rushing leader at the end of the 2020 season, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Is there anything working for Devin Singletary other than the 4 things I mentioned here? Anything that you guys can think of that points to the idea that maybe Devin Singletary could become the rushing leader at the end of the 2020 NFL season? So there's a lot of things working for Devin Singletary as far as him being the rushing leader at the end of the 2020 NFL season. So I think if you're a Bills fan, you have to be very excited about that. I'm very excited about that, and I think it's a real shot. But let's take a look at some of the reasons why I think he might have problems winning the NFL rushing title at the end of the 2020 NFL season. And we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills offensive line. According to Pro Football Focus, and listen guys, I know as Bills fans especially, we don't like always looking at Pro Football Focus, but in this instance, Pro Football Focus had the Buffalo Bills offensive line ranked 21st in the NFL. Now that's a big improvement compared to where they were the season before, where they were 29th, right? You're talking about moving up 8 spots, but that's still not good enough to give your running back a chance to break yard long gains, right? We know that the offensive guard position is a hindrance for the Buffalo Bills that needs to be addressed, whether it be during free agency or during the NFL draft. Offensive guard is something that needs to be addressed. Offensive tackle, are we going to keep Deion Dawkins? We know that Deion Dawkins is an unrestricted free agent this season. Is he going to come back to Buffalo, or is he going to check out the market and possibly end up somewhere else? If that's the case, I see us keeping Mitch Morse where he is, right? I see us keeping Cody Ford where he is. But other than that, we could really potentially have 3 new offensive linemen again this season coming up. Now, I do like John Feliciano. I do like Quentin Spain. I like some of these guys that we had fill in this season, but are they starters is the question, and we just have to wonder, are they actual starters of a playoff football team? So we could potentially have 3 new offensive linemen again this season. It could take them some time to get to know each other. It could take them some time to get to know each other's tendencies, things like that. And if they're taking time to do that, that could affect Devin Singletary's rushing stats. Now, again, we hope that that's not the case. We hope that maybe we have 1, maybe 2 new offensive linemen that everyone has to get used to, and that might help them come along a little bit better. But you never know what's going to happen. And again, you like Mitch Morse, but he had an injury last season, so you wonder if he can stay healthy. You like Cody Ford, but man, there were times where he struggled last season, right? So you just don't know what's going to happen with that offensive line. Definitely need to see improvement, maybe get in the top 15. If we're going to have Devin Singletary, I think he has a chance to be the 2020 NFL rushing leader. Going on to my second reason, guys, that's Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Listen, we were talking about the positive side of things and talking about how the Buffalo Bills ran the ball 47.5% of the time last season. That's a great number, right? Again, 7th best in the NFL. However, if you take a look at a lot of those runs, or at least some of those runs, you realize that Brian Daboll likes mixing things up, right? Obviously, he split carries between Frank Gore and Devin Singletary this year, but not just that. If you take a look at some of the jet sweeps, right? We ran McKenzie on a few jet sweeps. I think we ran John Brown on a jet sweep or 2. Definitely mixing things up a little bit. And let's not forget about the guy under center, Josh Allen. We know that Josh Allen's probably going to be carrying the ball on those 3rd and 1s, maybe even those 4th and 1s down in those type of situations. That's taking the ball away from Devin Singletary. And I know you think, well, it's just 1 yard. It's an easy yard for the quarterback. And it is. I don't disagree with you. But how many times have we seen Ezekiel Elliott? How many times do we see Derrick Henry this past season, I should say, take a 3rd and 1 run and turn it into a 20, 30-yard gain, because the defense is all tight inside that box, right? They have 8, maybe even 9 in the box at the time. And so you run Devin Singletary, he gets past that first line of defense. All of a sudden he gets to the second and third level and there's no one there. So he can bust a big run that way, and that would help pad his stats if he wanted to be the NFL rushing leader. So yes, is running a 6-foot plus quarterback up the middle on 3rd and 4th and 1 a smart play? Absolutely. Shouldn't do it all the time, but definitely something you could continue to do until the defense learns to stop it. But that's taking away carries from Devin Singletary. And not only that, we have seen Josh Allen just take off on pass play. You know, he's taken off a lot, which would help balloon up that 47.5 number into something that really wasn't meant to be if this was a Brian Daboll run offense. So Brian Daboll is definitely a question mark here when it comes to giving Devin Singletary the ball enough to win the NFL rushing title in 2020. We just talked about this guy. My third reason for Devin Singletary possibly not having a chance to win the NFL rushing title, and that's going to be our quarterback, Josh Allen. Josh Allen really needs to work on his deep ball accuracy. Now, if that includes the Buffalo Bills getting another deep threat wide receiver, a fast guy that Josh Allen can't overthrow, that can really take a top off a defense, or Josh Allen just hitting his mark, we need to have Josh Allen get better as deep ball accuracy. The reason why we need that is because if he doesn't get better, if the defense knows that he can't beat you deep, or he's unlikely to beat you deep, they're going to start sneaking up, right? They're going to start sneaking up, maybe putting 8 in the box, and it's going to make it harder on Devin Singletary to find holes in that type of defense, especially when you get to that second level. In order to be the NFL rushing leader at the end of a season, you have to have some pretty big runs. You have to break some runs that you were not expected to break. And although that we know Devin Singletary can carry the ball 200-300 times a season, we don't know if he could do that if he's getting hit on a consistent basis by NFL linebackers, by NFL defensive tackles. That's a different story. NFL is different than college, especially when you go, no offense, to Southern Methodist University. The guys that you're playing at that level are just not at the same level as the guys in the NFL. You take a look at our last 2 rushing champions, right? Derrick Henry played in Alabama, SEC, big boy football. You look at Ezekiel Elliott, Ohio State, Big Ten football, Power 5 conference. These guys are bigger, they're stronger, and again, no offense, but they're closer to the NFL type level of play that you'll see. Not necessarily the type of play you see at Southern Methodist University, but that's again just my opinion. You can leave a comment, let me know. Maybe you went to Southern Methodist University. I meant no disrespect by that. They're just not in one of those Power 5 conferences. That's all I meant. But hey, if you have a problem with that, you can leave it in the comment section. Just make sure you still hit that like button if you enjoy this content, guys. Again, those are some of my reasons why Devin Singletary might have problems winning the NFL rushing title. And then you just have the unknowns, right? There's so many unknowns, so many variables that go into a season that we just don't know yet. Free agency hasn't happened yet. The NFL draft hasn't happened yet. We don't know if Frank Gore is going to retire or if he's going to stay. And if he stays, we don't know if he's going to be with the Buffalo Bills. We don't know if we're going to look at TJ Yeldon to be our backup to Devin Singletary, or if we're going to pick someone up in the draft. What if we pick up DeAndre Swift in the draft? I'm not saying we're going to, but what if we do? Todd McShay actually had DeAndre Swift coming to the Buffalo Bills in one of his mock drafts. If that were to happen, what does that mean for Devin Singletary, right? Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a bunch of unknowns. We know that Devin Singletary had an issue with his hamstring early in the 2019 NFL season. Well, if that comes back or another serious type injury comes in the 2020 NFL season, these are all things that may prevent Devin Singletary from winning the NFL rushing title. But I think he does have a good shot. I think that the Buffalo Bills and Brian Daboll are learning from the mistakes, learning to run the ball a little bit more, and Devin Singletary is going to become that feature back for Buffalo, right? Only started 8 games in 2019. I expect, again, injury pending, of course, him to play all 16 games for the Buffalo Bills this season, and I think that's going to give him a good chance to win the NFL rushing title. Now, right now, Vegas does not have their odds out this year as far as who they think is going to win the rushing title. So I couldn't steal any percentages off of them. But if you're asking me right now, what do I think is the chance that Devin Singletary wins the rushing crown, the rushing title, I should say, during the NFL season, I'm actually going to put it at about 14%. I think maybe 13.5%, 14%. I think he has a good shot of doing it this season as long as the Bills improve that offensive line, give him a good offensive line to run behind. I think Devin Singletary could very easily be your next NFL rushing champion. Let me know what you think in the comment sections. Do you think that I put up a pretty good fight, pretty good case for Devin Singletary to win the rushing title in 2020? Or do you say the reasons why he won't win the title outweigh the reasons why I think he will? Again, let me know in the comment section, guys, as we continue to ask, could it happen in Buffalo sports? Taking your hot takes and saying, could they actually happen? If you have a hot take that you want me to do a video on, we'll be doing these videos every Monday between now and the start of the 2020 NFL season. So we're talking about the August, right? So we have a lot of videos that we can do. Leave a comment in the comment section. Be happy to get back to you. And again, guys, like this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills coverage. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.